Good evening. I'd like to call the Village Board meeting for the Village of Cary for August 27th, 2024 to order with roll call, please.
Collier.
Here.
McAlpine.
Here.
Walrath.
Here.
Dudek.
Here.
Weinhammer. Here. Stefani.
Here.
Thank you. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Moving to the open forum where the public is invited to make an issue-oriented comment on any matter of public concern not otherwise on the agenda. I have several people signed in, and remember our open policy is for 3 minutes, so we prefer that you could keep this to 3 minutes since we have several people. First one we have is Dave Gwynn.
Hey, good evening. I was here 2 weeks ago, I think it was 2 weeks ago at the last meeting, and since the last meeting I brought up some speed concerns on Decker Drive, Decker in Montana. So since that meeting, a traffic study was done and radar signs were put out to slow the traffic down. So we thank the council for your cooperation and the help you've given us. We think it did pay off. We noticed traffic going slower with the radar signs out. We had a very informative and interactive meeting today with Chief Finland and Eric Morimoto and Kaylin Noonan. So we appreciate the time today, guys. I think we had a very good discussion, talked about some things we can do. We also reviewed the traffic study. And by the way, the traffic study was probably a little bit flawed because when they put the traffic study out, they came in right after that and put the radar speed signs up. So it's like telling people to slow down. We're doing a traffic study here. So we may not have gotten the straight information, but I think there is a commitment to redo that probably sometime this fall. The 85th percentile average speed was around 28 miles an hour. So that was kind of a pleasant surprise that it wasn't, much higher. So the top speed was not available. I think, Eric, you mentioned that would be available in the next few days or a week or so. However, we reviewed a speed study from 2016. In 2016, the top speed was 57 miles an hour. And I think one of my neighbors will be talking tonight, and he'll talk about some of the top speeds he's seen. So I also brought some stats. I know everybody likes statistics. If you look at the 30 mile an hour chart, for a car to stop at 30 miles an hour, which is the approximate speed now in the 85th percentile, 75 feet, a truck takes 100 feet. Traveling at 60 miles an hour takes that same car 250 feet to stop, and it takes a truck 325 feet to stop. So we've seen some heavy trucks speeding through the neighborhood. So if, God forbid, a kid gets out in front of these heavy trucks going that kind of speed. So we also reviewed potential solutions, longer term, potentially a permanent radar signs. Might take a little bit more work and getting some funds from the government to do that. Also talked about lane narrowing stripes. Sounds like a good solution and may be somewhat cost effective. So in closing, we appreciate the focus on the speeds on Decker and Montana, and we look forward to the continued cooperation. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Rick Brennan.
Hi, good evening. I know Dave, I live on Montana. I hope the board realizes that this problem starts up on Montana Drive and continues all the way down. I cut my grass and I could see those radar detectors every day. The fastest speed I saw was 54 miles an hour, and he was picking up speed. I've been passed on that street numerous times. I've had people get out of their cars at the stop sign and start yelling at me, tell me they're gonna beat me up if I don't start driving faster on this street. I also talked to one of the plow drivers because I was concerned about the streetlights, which I'll talk about in a second. He said he was passed when he was plowing snow at 25 miles an hour, so that's ridiculous. Now the streetlights, I've noticed that the streetlight across from my house is out, so I went to file a report and found out it was owned by ComEd. Our whole subdivision's owned by, the streetlights are owned by ComEd. We have 6 streetlights out in our subdivision. 4 alone on Montana. So with the speeds, and there's no lights to get across the street. Some light poles are cracked. And I don't know if the village can put any, because some of these have been out over 6 months that they've been reported. I don't know if there's any pressure that the village can put on ComEd, or why the village doesn't own them like they do in other subdivisions. So I don't know if you guys can do anything to get them to fix those lights in a timely manner, because I think 6 months, because if the neighborhood's not safe, no one's gonna wanna go downtown.
No, I understand. We have a government contact that we use with ComEd. We rely and we respect the fact that our residents keep us posted. So the more we know, because there's a lot, Public Works and that they're not out at night to see these
Right.
things, so it's hard to see. But they will be testing them. Courtney, did you have something you wanted to say? Yeah.
If we can have the address of the street lights, we can report them.
Okay, I can get them from my wife, and I'll get them to.
Yeah, the more information that we get, the easier,
Well, we
because
reported all of them have been reported.
to ComEd or to
To
us?
ComEd.
Okay.
Got it.
Well, we can follow up on that
Yeah,
gladly.
'cause there's like 6 months, 3 months, 2 months, and then we reported a bunch yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you. Martha Ritter?
Good evening. Martha Ritter. I live where our subdivision was thrown under a school bus again. Seems to me for a school district that promotes no bullying, the village showed a great example of what bullying is. Way to show those kids. Why does the zoning board change every zoning except the Maplewood one, especially when District 26 did everything right? We voiced our opinions in writing and got steamrolled over. I think they just made a bonfire out of them. So I'm guessing all those secret meetings behind closed doors were not coffee and donuts. You knew what you wanted to do from the very beginning, and you got it one way or another. Goodbye, baseball forever, and goodbye to the kids in our neighborhood ever playing there again. Thank you.
Thank you. Paula Polston? Paula Polston, please.
I signed my name,
Yep.
thinking I need to have my name on that sheet, just in case I had a question or something for this
Oh,
evening.
did you want to address the village? This is to address the village board. Did you want to hold your comments till we're at the topic that you want to discuss?
Well, do you have any authority or pressure over builders in this village?
We can contact the builder. Are you,
Well, I'm a new ranch. on
right,
Cimarron.
from Cimarron?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would direct you to talk to Brian Simmons, who's our community development director, and he can contact the builder and help you out with that. We were made aware of that already, and I believe there's been a conversation already with the builder about that.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
I just came up with this lady. I didn't get a chance to sign in.
Okay, I'll be happy. I will do a regular call when everybody else that's signed in. I'm going to give them priority, and then once they're all done, I will call you up and ask if there's
Appreciate it.
anybody else that has a comment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dorothy Shurchell? Thanks, Dorothy. Christy Wagner?
I've learned several lessons in this journey of the Maplewood property. Sadly, I've learned that here in Cary, our village used political power and apparently backdoor maneuvering to leverage against another unit of local government, District 26. Only when threatened with possible legal action did the village then sit down to create this IGA. I've watched as the village grants variances to ordinances for developers, as the village waives impact fees for developers, and yet was unwilling to grant District 26 the change in the ordinance in order to build their transportation facility. All because the village had one goal: obtain that precious Maplewood property for their vision of what Cary should be about. It's been a painful lesson. The village backed District 26 into a corner about the future of their own property and held them in a vice until threat of litigation. How much energy, time, and money from both units of government have been directed to this controversy? How much more productive it would have been to work together from the very beginning. And frankly, it's shameful how the village acted against District 26. Another lesson I learned is that unlike the village, District 26 provided the community with information on this IGA. They discussed it at their August 19th meeting. They invited the Maplewood community residents to another meeting on August 22nd so that our input could be heard, recorded, and responded to. The Village of Cary canceled their July 16th, August 6th, and August 20th committees of the whole meetings, and it feels like you were avoiding or hiding your efforts in developing this IGA. The lesson I learned here is to be wary when public entities cancel their public meetings. Transparency is a tricky word that can be easily manipulated. My final lesson is, if the poor example of the schoolhouse apartments on Main Street shows us anything, it's that we the people must demand better accountability in who our village is using to develop our land, especially since it is expected that they will soon be looking to develop the Maplewood site. At the August 16th, 2022 Village Board meeting, you were all asked to consider for approval a resolution authorizing and approving the proposed redevelopment agreement with True North Properties for the 441 West Main Street building. However, when the PTAX 203 Illinois Real Estate Transfer Declaration was recorded in McHenry County on January 6, 2023, the 441 property buyer information was that it was Cary School and Maine LLC. So who is True North Properties? Attorney Paul J. Koulis or Cary School and Maine LLC? I remember being told at a board meeting that every month the village receives numerous calls regarding rental property and development. But it's interesting that the 10 apartments in this building sit unoccupied yet. The apartments stand out like a true white elephant with spray paint extending up onto the roof. Spray paint used to cover up the 3 different types of brick that the builder used to construct this project. And if I were to consider paying $2,000 a month to live there, I would certainly expect to have more secure mailboxes than the 10 metal boxes hung on 2x4s in front of the building. We, the people, should not have to beg to be listened to. I urge you to revisit the definition of public servant. Need a refresher? A public servant is an individual employed by government agencies or organizations to perform duties that serve the interests of the general public. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Tim Tomasello, please let this gentleman have his opportunity to speak.
Good evening. My name's Tim Tomasello. I live at 324 Bryan Drive. I'm right on the corner of Bryan and Decker. But Decker isn't only just a small throughway street. It's a major throughway street. In fact, in McHenry County, if you go and contest your taxes and tell them that you're on Decker, they turn around and give you an additional tax break because of that being a major throughway. Nobody stops to think about all the other little communities here that all come through there to go to 14 to go to work every day. And I've seen where people are going 40 and 45 and 50 miles an hour down the hill or coming up the hill. And we've raised 3 children at this home since 1988, and now we have grandkids coming, and we're trying to help protect them, but we try to get them to stay in the backyard. But of course, the young ones want to go out in the front and everything and see what's happening with all this traffic. And I think it's a very serious thing. I think we probably need a stop sign, possibly on Clare Lane, so that as the people start to go down, they have to stop. So it's going to take them a while to get their speed up again going down the hill, and also going up the hill if they have to stop there. But I would hate to see a child in our community die because of the speeding that's being done in this area. And I would really seriously hope that the people here would take that into consideration and seriously consider that. I know one of the other people were telling me that possibly we should have empty police car every once in a while. Well, that's great for a while, but eventually people know it's an empty police car. So, I mean, that could be a possibility too. But it is a very serious situation with the people going through, with that being a major throughway for the pines and all the other, what is that, that $1 million area down on Three Oaks Road?
Harvest Glen.
Harvest Glen.
Yeah, that's a feeder road.
Right, it's definitely a major feeder road, and we would hope that the city would do something to try to get them to slow this down. I was just up in Wisconsin on 14 today, and going through on Highway 14 through the one town there, the speed limit was 25 miles an hour there, and that's what it is right here, but nobody's doing 25 miles an hour. They're all doing 30 or 35 or 40, and so I hope the people here today can do something to try to correct this issue before a little child does die. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments, and we are addressing those concerns. Now I'll open up to anybody else that didn't sign in that would like to address the village board, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Mills. I've lived on and off in Cary since 1978. I wonder how many people here, audience in front of me, can make that claim that they've been here 10, 20, 30 years. I don't know if it's out of order to raise your hand. Anyone? Everyone? How about all up here? Anyone been here over 30 years?
Yep.
40 years? Okay. I do that for the reason of knowing what's at the best interest of the city, of the town. Not anyone individually, not me, although I'm part of this community, so I hope what we do is for the best of everyone. I heard the word transparency. I don't see that. I see special interest. I see people, I can read about it. I understand closed-door meetings. I grew up with the Chicago politics. My family all worked for the city, so I grew up with politics from age 5 when I could understand some of it. But what bothers me the most is what seems to be happening now is not at the best interest of the city. It's in the best interest of a handful of people. That's not transparent. That's not good for the city. I mean, simple things, bricks popping out of this street and Main Street, and whoever got that contract, how much more money they got to pay them simply because they didn't do the job right to begin with? I don't know. Do you know? No, sir? How come people don't know these things? There's a lot of things that bug people. We all have issues with certain things, and it's hard to come together to work great for everyone. But we do the best we can. And that's what worries me the most and what I'm reading about and learning. And I'm not going to point fingers at anyone, because you can point your finger right back at me and say anything you want to me. I'll take it as a discussion point, not an attack. But what I don't see and what I've learned, people didn't listen to the people who were representing 26. There was so much behind the scenes and closed-door meetings. We can't get the information that we need. And maybe we'll agree, maybe we'll disagree. But that's the point of living in a community together, that we work it together. You know, I live right off School Street, Arthur Drive, walk to the baseball field, watch the kids. Where are they going to play? Oh, okay, there's always parks all over the place. There are many parks for them to go to. Maybe they have to walk across busy streets, maybe they don't. You build a place there. I don't understand why single-family homes wouldn't be a viable idea. Those people are probably going to stay put, and tax money is going to go to the village and the county. They're going to stay put. They want a home, single-family homes. This isn't a fair assessment, and I don't mean to discourage anyone when I say I've lived in townhouses, I live in condos. A lot of people are transient. They can be good people. A lot of people live in there, and they stay put. What I'm looking at is what's good for the whole village, and I don't see that with this proposed plan for Maplewood property. What I see is a road that's going to go along the railroad tracks and cut off their yards in the back, and I don't know how many people know of that. Because how are you going to get these people in and out other than Main Street? And the town's clogged enough as it is, Fox River Grove, Carrier. It's just the way it is. But you put those people there, or you put those buildings there, and you bring in 300, 400, 500 people, 600, 1,000 people, how are they going to get around? let's say a quarter of them have kids. Where are they going to go to school now? You're going to get them somewhere. And instead of letting the village or build the bus barn there, now you're going to build it over on Aldi. That's a real busy street, folks. You all know this. I just don't see that what's happening is helping this village at all. And the people in power, I guess, are right in front of me, maybe behind me, and they're working with the people in front of me. I can't say, because I'll use the word ignorant, because I haven't really looked into this as much as I should, and I will. I'll definitely look into all of this. Because again, I grew up with Chicago politics, and I knew how that city ran, and it seems that that's how this village is being run now. And I hope that it doesn't turn into, as I'm sure we've all seen on television, what's going on in the village of Dalton, and people are doing things that are illegal. You can only cover that up for so long, and someone will eventually figure it out. And it may be one of us. I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble, but if that's what's happening here, you're digging your own grave. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else who would like to address the village board?
I had questions about Maplewood. Should I wait till it's up on the agenda or
Yes.
wait till then? Okay.
Good evening, trustees. Good evening, Mayor Koenig. A lot of perspective, a lot of opinions, a lot of what was shared has been shared tonight. What I'd like to share tonight is just a little bit of gratitude. I literally live down the street from Maplewood, and I know that the relationship between District 26 and the Village of Cary has been difficult and contentious for years and years and years. And I just want to thank you for finding a way to work with them and move forward with something, because the condition that Maplewood is in right now and is terrible. It's hard to look at. It's deteriorating, and all at the same time, watching the Village of Cary and District 26 battle each other and point fingers at each other has been difficult to watch as well. And we all know there's a lot of animosity there, and I've been watching from the sidelines, and I want you to know that there was a lot of hard work that was put into getting both bodies to where they're at right now. Say what you want to say, how you got here. Say what anybody can say what they want to say. Everybody's entitled to their opinion and their perspective. I respect all that. But I just wanted to take a moment just to show you a little appreciation. I did the same thing last night. I said similar words last night to District 26 and showed my appreciation of them. And I think one of the things that people don't speak about a whole lot is despite everybody's differences and feelings they have from each other, being able to come together and find a resolution to a big problem is overlooked, and both of you did that in this example. So I think that's what we expect here in any village, especially Village of Cary, is being able to witness something like that. So once again, thank you very much for all your hard work, and for both District 26 and Village of Cary. I look forward to seeing what great things that you can do with the new transportation center for District 26, and also whatever might happen with Maplewood, which we all know is is a to be continued, as you move forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to address the village board? All right, we'll go ahead and close open forum at 6:24. I have one item on my report today. It's a proclamation for the Chamber of Commerce Week, and I'm turning this over to Trustee McAlpine.
Thank you. The proclamation for Chamber of Commerce Week, September 8th through the 13th of 2024. Whereas the Cary Grove Area Chamber of Commerce works with the businesses, merchants, and industry to advance the civic, economic, industrial, professional, and cultural life of the Village of Cary, and whereas this year marks the 105th anniversary of the founding of the Illinois Chamber of Commerce, the state's leading broad-based business organization, and whereas the Chamber of Commerce and its members provide citizens with a strong business environment that increases employment, the retail, trade, and commerce, and industrial growth in order to make the Village of Cary a better place to live in, and whereas the Chamber of Commerce encourages the growth of existing industries, services, and commercial firms, and encourages new firms and individuals to locate in the Village of Cary. Now, therefore, Mayor Mark Kaunick, the Mayor of Cary, does hereby proclaim September 9th through the 13th of 2024 as Chamber of Commerce Week in the Village of Cary and call its significance to the citizens of the Village of Cary, dated this 27th day of August 2024.
Thank you. And I'd like to recognize Sandy Neese here, who is the chairman of the Cary Grove Chamber of Commerce. Thank you very much for all you do. You are an unbelievable institution for the Cary businesses, and we appreciate all that you do, and we're looking forward to our new forged partnership with our next Cary Main Street Fest, which is coming up at the end of September. We're partnering 50-50 with you, and we're looking forward to it. It's been a great process so far. And if we could pray to the gods that the weather turns out nice that day, those 2 days will be better off. But thank you for all you do for the Village of Cary. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items A through K as noted on our village's website as well as on the screen here today.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Walrath,
Yes.
Weinhammer,
Yes.
Collier,
Yes.
Dudek,
Yes.
Stefani,
Yes.
McAlpine.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving forward we have one item for action tonight, is I will entertain a motion to approve a resolution authorizing an intergovernmental agreement between the Village of Cary and Cary Consolidated School District Number 26 for the transfer of Maplewood property subject to final attorney review.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Turn this over to Director Simmons, or did you want to?
We're tag teaming. So you'll be hearing from Director Simmons and myself this evening. Thank you, Mayor. As the Village Board is aware, over the past several months, the staff from District 26 and the Village of Cary were tasked by our respective boards to look into potential solutions regarding the transportation center at the Maplewood property. In revisiting the previous the previous transfer proposals that the village had developed, we've worked together with the school staff to identify first what some of the main challenges were in order to arrive at that solution. Shown here are some of the highlights that the teams from both district staff and the village came up with and utilized in order to formulate our goals and the eventual proposed transfer agreement. The first priority was to address the risk that was for the school district that was found to have been a challenge with regards to the previous proposals when having that dependent upon a developer and also dependent upon the performance of the newly formed Central Cary TIF, or TIF number 3. Another challenge that was identified was that the solution and the location for the new transportation center had to be at a spot that was not at the junior high campus and not beneath electrical transmission lines. The school, as indicated at last night's meeting at the school district, the obviously desire to keep that open space that is around that junior high campus and Deer Path Elementary campus, should there be a need for future growth by the district, was a desire to be preserved and maintained. So making sure we had a location that preserved that was very critical for the solution here. And then thirdly, finding a parcel that was within our financial resources for the project, but still provided the district with that flexibility for other future needs on the property adjacent to the transportation center, whether that be a future administration building, which, to be clear, they don't have current plans on the books at this point, but just in case that is a need down the road, that this site would provide that flexibility for that. So then that resulted in the goals. And again, these were developed jointly. And to be clear, I want to maybe step back a bit and mention that this has been a very truly collaborative process. We were tasked by our boards to work together to narrow down a solution that could be attainable and considered by both boards. And I want to give a lot of credit to Dr. White and Mr. Shepard, who are here tonight from District 26. I found that through the process, we've been meeting at times weekly, if not more than once a week. And Director Simmons and I have found a great respect and level of cooperation that we've had, and I do think that this is going to be a great example of how we move forward. And I think, I do believe this proposal that staff is recommending for the board tonight, as was recommended by district staff last night, I think is a great step forward towards meeting our future and mutual goals, of which listed here. First goal for this proposal was to address the current and future operational needs for the school bus transportation facility and storage for the buses. The other goal was to get a new transportation center at a location that's compatible with the surrounding land uses, particularly with the immediate neighboring properties that the location will be sited at. Third, provide a substantial cost savings to the district with regards to their previous original plan that they had received bids on to remain at Maplewood. And then lastly, achieve that demolition of the former Maplewood School building and achieve the eventual redevelopment of the site. So what's shown here is admittedly a very complex chart in terms of the overall steps that we are proposing to arrive at the solution. I know it looks a little bit like a video, like a game board here, but we'll start the game at the top left here. So the first step is where we're at now. You see in that purple area, the 3 steps largely surrounded by or centered around our intergovernmental agreement. So that involves the IGA that's being considered this evening, and that was approved yesterday by the school board, as well as a purchase and sale agreement for that new property. Next 2 steps kind of happen simultaneously. Upon approval, if approved this evening, the IGA, that would then trigger the issuance of bonds by the village that would be funded by the Central Cary TIF district, not by any new taxes or diverting other revenues. And then simultaneously with that, because there is a bit of a process involved, the village would then issue a statement of qualifications and a request for proposals to the development community to identify quality developers for the redevelopment of the Maplewood property. Then upon completion of the bond process, that would result in a $5.5 million TIF assistance package that would be provided upfront to the school district, which then triggers the next step, the district purchasing that new property and closing on it, simultaneously updating their design and permit plans, most of which we've worked together with the school staff to do a layout on the new property that would be able to incorporate their existing plans for their new building, but place them on the new site layout, as well as the zoning and subdivision of the new property, which I'll explain shortly. And following that would result in one of those goals, the transportation center construction, which is designed to be completed and targeted by the August 2025 school year beginning. And then I mentioned that there's a subdivision of the property. A portion of the property would be retained by the school district, which is sufficient in size for both their transportation center use and the eventual future expansion of other needs should they occur. And then the remaining parts of that property would be sold by the school district and marketed immediately. And then going back to the bottom on the base section of the Maplewood property side, the issuance of that TIF assistance would result in the transfer of the Maplewood property to the Village of Cary. And then through that process with the request for proposals from developers, the process would then encompass the redevelopment of the property and then resulting in the demolition of the old school building, but only after the transportation center construction is complete, which provides the flexibility for the school to not have to temporarily relocate their buses and their maintenance facilities elsewhere, so saving them not just costs, but logistical benefits as well, keeping those buses away from probably the only place they likely would have stored them temporarily at the junior high campus. So again, keeping that area free and operationally the same as it is now. So the village and the school district, apologize, some of the fonts didn't translate well here, looked at various locations at a staff level to identify spots that would meet those goals that we just mentioned. And of the short list, there was one property that seemed to stand out the most, and it's located where that green box is pointed. That's at 3 Oaks Road and Georgetown Drive. That site was looked at specifically for, one, availability from a price and willing seller, but two, also looking at the logistics of the bus routing and making sure that they had convenient access to that railroad underpass located at Cary Algonquin Road. And that is key because due to the unfortunate circumstances that occurred in the past with school buses and the railroad, it is a district policy that the schools buses not cross the railroad tracks whenever possible, which I understand is nearly all the time, with very few exceptions. So the proposed location needed to be at least as close to and convenient to that underpass as their current site, if not better. So the proposed site that was arrived at and recommended by school and village staff was this vacant piece of property at the corner of 3 Oaks Road and Georgetown, just to the west-northwest of the Aldi. It is about 7.3 acres in size, of which 3.93 acres would be maintained by the school district for the transportation center use and the future expansion as needed. The team was able to negotiate the price down from the list price to $1.175 million, and that would, through the property acquisition process, also involve the standard due diligence costs of title surveys, soil borings, et cetera, at estimated approximately $15,000. And in looking at, as I mentioned, the location that was key to have convenient access to that underpass, we did a little travel time analysis showing the current location in the red, which is the route from the existing transportation center to the underpass via the stoplight at Main and Cary Algonquin Road. It's about 3-minute travel time estimated by Google Maps, and about 1.1 miles. And then conversely, from the new location, the inbound side and the green route on Industrial Drive is actually identical, about 3-minute travel time and the same distance. And outbound in the blue, if the desire was to utilize that signal that exists there, a 5-minute travel time and 1.9 miles, so not substantially longer. However, with the current study that's in place for the Maplewood Access Road, that would include, upon construction, a signalized intersection at Industrial Drive and the new access road where it intersects Cary Algonquin Road. So once that's completed, the school bus routes that were going outbound toward the underpass would have that option of that signal as well down the road.
Eric, can I ask a question?
Certainly.
On that slide. So on Industrial Drive, sometimes there's semis parked on both sides. Is there anything that the village is looking to do so that buses can easily get through Industrial Drive at that time period when kids are on the bus trying to get to and from school?
Yes, so as part of our overall road program, I know recently the village instituted revised parking restrictions on Industrial Drive relative to the increase in the activity on that industrial park. There are options that are available upon resurfacing the road, or if needed, just to do traffic management and traffic flow. Keeping in mind, though, that based on coming from the north part of their district via the underpass, the buses would not be carrying students. They would be returning back to the transportation center. So if there is a slight delay, not that that's ideal, obviously, that's not upsetting their route times and their drop-off points. Whereas outbound, that's where that option where the Industrial Drive could be utilized, but that obviously is more in the morning time when the industrial park isn't as frequently busy with deliveries. But the option in the blue is still always available for the buses as another reliable option as well. And if there's any questions, I encourage district staff is here to chime in as well if you like.
Just further, just a little bit more on that. If they were leaving from the bus transportation center, does the school district have the same, if there's no students on there, could they conceivably leave and go over the railroad tracks with no students? Or is it still, okay, I just was checking. Okay, makes sense.
And as I mentioned in that flow chart, the purchase and sale of the new property would be by the school district upon, after receiving the upfront TIF assistance that we have included in the IGA here. So the first element of that purchase and sale agreement for that 7.3 acre property is for that parcel I just mentioned. The purchase price that was negotiated is $1.175 million with $25,000 in earnest money, and does include a 90-day due diligence period, which includes site inspections, soil borings, as well as the financing period that the village requires for our bond issuance. Now I'm going to turn it over to Director Simmons to go over some of the details of the IGA itself.
I think as far as the looking at more specifics in the IGA and the numbers as far as how we came to the solution, obviously when the discussion started, we began with what the existing costs or what the proposed costs for staying at Maplewood property would have been for the district. So those bids came in around $6 million. And one of the goals that we had was to begin with trying to find a substantial savings to the district through this process. So that through discussions on the cost to develop the facility and what the village's ability to participate in a project would be, reviewed what our bonding capacity was based off the current performance of the TIF, and over 20 years what the TIF would be able to produce or support from a bonding capacity, and that's where we arrived at the $5.5 million of TIF assistance that would be directly related to revenue from the TIF, would not be associated with any new tax increase, as Mr. Morrow already stated. From that, the $5.5 million would be provided to the school district for the transfer of the property. That funds would go towards not just the acquisition of the property, but also for some costs that have already been incurred related to the remediation of mold and asbestos at the Maplewood property, some work that they've already performed there and some design work as well. It also would go towards the acquisition of the new transportation site and the costs associated with that purchase. So in total, the net cost to the school district would remain around $1.7 million, so they would realize a savings in this process of roughly $4.2 million through the sale and transfer of the Maplewood property, the acquisition of the new site, and the construction of the new facility on that property. Following the completion of that project, or actually during the portion of construction of the new transportation center with the village ownership of the property for the Maplewood becoming to the village, so the village would go out to the development community to market that property for potential sale and interest. We would suggest or recommend doing that through an RFQ process to get developer proposals in that would provide responses as far as what type of project would be appropriate there, and then the village would determine which development the village would like to pursue for that property and go through the zoning process and a redevelopment agreement with a selected developer from that standpoint. So looking more specifically at the TIF assistance details as far as what the $5.5 million would go towards, as I mentioned a little bit already, the TIF assistance would be considered revenue for the district related to first the compensation for the Maplewood property, so the acquisition cost of that parcel of over $2 million would be for the Maplewood purchase. They mentioned they have already expended some funds for the demolition and remediation costs at the Maplewood property for the project that had commenced earlier this year. Some of that assistance will go towards those costs that they had incurred, and then the final portion of that will go towards site preparation at the new transportation center location on 3 Oaks Road across the street here. This slide provides a greater breakdown of those numbers, comparing what the original option that the school district was considering this year to stay at the Maplewood site, which is the column on the left, versus the proposed transfer agreement and the actual costs that would be incurred. Going line by line, the new property purchase, again, was under list price at $1.5 million, was purchased at just under $1.2 million, with additional acquisition and closing costs and some site engineering work that would go along with the development of plans for that property. Those are less than the $370,000 that was originally spent, and also with the demolition as well at the Maplewood site, with the proposed the transportation center costing around $5.8 million at the new property, with the $5.5 million TIF assistance through this agreement, would reduce the school's impact on their books down to $1.7 million, which would allow them to see a savings of roughly $4 million from original costs that they can utilize for other needs for facilities or specific needs that the district may have in their operations. Again, this slide speaks towards why the need for the assistance. Again, it's to provide upfront TIF assistance to District 26 to allow them to relocate their transportation center. What the TIF assistance will also do will help to spur development on not just one parcel in the village. It will help spur development on 2 parcels, specifically looking at the what referred to as a Caper property next to the Aldi. It's a site that's been sitting vacant for several years, that has not had much development interest from the development community from a standpoint that the previous seller has not been willing to subdivide that property. But by the village and district working together to purchase that property will spur additional interest in that site. And also with the Maplewood property will allow for that property to potentially be put back on the tax rolls and spur development on that site as well. So it's a win-win for both the district and the village and other tax districts from a standpoint that will spur development in 2 sites that have not seen activity recently. And again, also with the acquisition of the Maplewood property, with that portion of that property going back on the tax rolls should it be redeveloped, the village would see a significant portion of that TIF investment recovered through that process, potentially with a redevelopment agreement with the developer, putting the property back on the tax rolls and a new increment from that site being generated. And then once the TIF expires, all the taxing districts would see a benefit of whatever development does occur on that site as well.
So this slide here, I know it's hard to read, but it is essentially a Gantt-style chart that shows the timeline of all the different steps that are involved in that flow chart we showed earlier. So the highlights, though, at the top there, obviously yesterday on August 26th, the school district approved the IGA and purchase agreement for the new properties. And then today, the 27th, the village is considering the IGA for approval. And if approved, that would then trigger at our next scheduled board meeting on September 17th, a bond parameters ordinance, which would initiate the bond process that we mentioned for the TIF assistance. And again, kind of highlighting why the timeline is set up this way. It is with the ultimate goal of having that transportation center construction, which is the green section of the schedule, completed and operational for that school year, for the 2025-26 school year. And of course, as I mentioned before, the demolition of the Maplewood School building, the old building, in preparation for that, or with that development, obviously would not occur until after the school district moves to their new transportation center, because that building is still required and necessary for the current facility to function for their basic utilities. And just kind of in summary of the highlights and opportunities that the proposed IGA provides. Obviously, it provides that new transportation center at a substantial cost savings for the district, the immediate and long-term financial benefits to the school district, freeing up that cash that would have been spent on the Maplewood site to other needs as they deem appropriate. And of course, as Director Simmons mentioned, the redevelopment of not 1 but 2 long-term vacant parcels, with the taxi bodies benefiting financially from those. And also noting that the 2 commercial properties that are in front of the new transportation center site, those are not located in the Central Cary TIF. So if those get developed and when those get developed, there will be immediate benefits to all taxing bodies, not having to wait for the conclusion of that TIF. And with that, open up to discussion from the board.
Before we get into the discussion with the board, I'd like to open it up again to the audience. If you have any other comments or questions regarding this, now would be your opportunity to come up and ask away.
David Miller, 65 Northwest Highway, Cary, Illinois. First of all, I don't know why, if the school district is asking $2.75 million for the property, why we're giving them 5.5. Looks like we're funding them for their bus garage. If they sold a property for 2.75, what was their plan for the bus garage without your assistance? Just seems like we're overpaying for a property that they had listed. Want to tell you everything, or want to answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want us to hit it off every time you
know?
We'll do whatever you'd like.
Okay.
Well, part of the value of being in a TIF district, we are capable of offering assistance to relocate somebody from the TIF. That's where that comes into, to offset the costs of them building their new transportation center. We are in total agreement that this is in the best, highest use of the property and the TIF funds. This particular deal the school district will have the highest use of the tax. They will be the largest purveyor of the tax district, or the TIF district right now. So that's the main reason why we're doing it this way.
Okay, just seems like we're overpaying for something we could just bought outright for.
Well, when you look at, I understand that when you look at what did you want to chime in? Well, when you look at, because you look like you're ready to hit the microphone. Okay. When you look at the cost of the property, I've been around a long time, in my 12th year here doing this, and Maplewood has always been a consideration for what we do. And we didn't have an opportunity like this before because we didn't have a central TIF district. We enacted a central TIF district essentially to try to help us spur more development and redevelopment in the downtown and all the way up Route 14 to the river and up to Carroll-Algonquin Road. That's the main reason we did this. They are going to be the largest beneficiary of the TIF district as it is right now. The cost of relocating the transportation center, it was a separate cost that the school district was going to encounter. That we're able to use the TIF funds to offset the costs of relocating somebody from the TIF to further the benefit of the TIF. It just makes very good sense.
It's very beneficial to the school district. I think it's a wonderful thing for school district, but
funny,
we see no benefits in the taxing body as taxing payers, that we get no relief for them getting this huge benefit from our tax dollars. It just seems like we're overpaying. That was just my opinion, what's going on to it.
The way I look, I had a conversation with somebody about this the other day. The way I look at this too is if you look at all the taxing bodies in the village of Cary, we try to be as harmonious as possible. I look at it as an extended family. We're helping another taxing body, a family member, to try to get to the goals that they need. Our first priority is to make sure that we have a safe transportation for our children of the community. We want to make sure that there's a safe benefit to the bus drivers. And that it's a win-win for all three of the entities here. It's a win for the village, it's a win for the school district, and above all, it's a win for the community. Without us spending any more money that we have right now, when you look at that one slide that we have, that the school district is saving over $4 million by doing this deal.
Yes, they are.
They are, but we're here to help them. This is something that we didn't go into blindly. We've been talking about this before. As a matter of fact, it was reported, just to clarify things, we floated this idea to the school district last summer. And we didn't have the wherewithal to do what we're doing right now. It was going to be a completely different project. So this proposal right now is a really good opportunity for the entire community. And I understand you're concerned about that, but I would much rather have the taxing bodies and the village residents of Cary benefit than say a developer that comes in that wants all this relief. We are giving the relief to the people that really need it. That we're not taking any money out of their coffers. We're not taking any money out of our coffers. The TIF is going to be paying for this, which is what it was generated to do.
And building upon what the mayor said, one of the slides that we presented that Director Simmons had shown, it outlined that it is not, this TIF assistance is not just for the compensation of the Maplewood property. So we're not looking at it just in the terms of isolation of this dollar for the property. Obviously, the school district is using it for the relocation of the school transportation center, acquisition of the property, and the demolition and remediation costs they've already spent. So the TIF allows those costs to be transferred and packaged together for those reasons. Again, not just purely for the property transfer.
Right, but They also get a benefit now, they don't have to demolish the building, that's up to the village's cost now to it. They also don't have the, they're gonna spend $6 million to put a building somewhere else or on that property. So now they're saving they've got a huge savings to it. But I see no savings coming to the tax bodies, the taxpayers. When I was just at a meeting and they're talking about they want a referendum for another $20 million to rebuild all their schools, they've been neglected, like they let their bus garage get neglected. So the taxpayers are paying the brunt of it. The village is not costing us any more money through the TIF, which is a great deal to it. But the school district is a beneficiary, they're moving it all out of it. And the developer coming in is gonna do the best thing too, because he didn't have to pay the $2.75 million for the property, because we'll give that to him at a discount to get the right development in there.
Well, that's an assumption. I understand what you're
Every
saying.
property we've had so far that
but
we've owned, we've
I
given
can
away
only,
at pennies on a dollar. So historically, that's how it works.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand.
Hopefully it doesn't, but
Yeah.
historically.
I understand what you're saying, but, you know, we try to deal with the facts that are present right now. I'm trying to leave everything, you know, this has been going on for long enough, and we finally have an opportunity that I think it's been a great collaborative effort between the board. And I have to shout out to Dr. White, to Mr. Shepard, Mr. Simmons, and Mr. Morimoto, that I think that, you know, contrary to what I've heard, they've done an outstanding job of bringing these two taxing bodies together for the best benefit for the entire community. I'm very proud of what they've done in a very short amount of time. They put their heads down, they got to work, they worked on the behalf of the school district, they've worked on the behalf of the village of Cary. We want to make sure that we have all of these things, all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, so that we can push this forward. And when we first talked about properties and what we were looking at, this has been going on for a long time. We've driven through the town, we've talked to the school district, we've shown them so many presentations about this, and this is what's going to work. The property that we have right now that under contract wasn't a consideration because the board had decided before through our comp plan that was going to be a commercial property only. We decided what would be the best interest of the entire community. Director Simmons backed me up on this, but that property has a lot of interest in it, but everybody wants to subdivide it. Nobody wants the back part of the property that's adjacent to the railroad tracks. They're paying undeveloped fees, undeveloped taxes there, so it's really not a win-win for anybody. So with the mere fact of having the back 3-some acres being for the school district and their anticipated needs, hopefully, that they can build what they want with their administrative center, which is not part of this deal, we have a great opportunity to subdivide the property, I should say the school district, will do all this together to subdivide the property, to bring in the retails and the restaurants that want to come here that didn't want to buy the entire property. So it's a really good opportunity for us as a whole.
So the school district gets 2 commercial lots on top of the bus garage property.
Well, part of the deal is those properties will be sold.
Right, by the school district.
Correct.
Okay, so more money for them. I'm just saying the beneficiary of this whole thing is really the school district. It's a wonderful deal. It's a great, great deal. But I've not heard the school district give us any kind of inkling that we're getting any savings from it as long-term taxpayers.
Well, I look at it a little bit differently than that, and I think I'm not speaking for the board. I'm speaking, from what I do here. That you look at communities, and I'm in a lot of other boards, and I talk to a lot of other mayors. One of our first priorities is to make sure that we have a good education for our students, and we're providing top-notch facilities for them to be educated in it. And you have to spend some money to do that. And if we're able to help them, and they can save extra money to do things that they need to do, that is a win-win for the entire community.
Yes, it is.
I believe it is.
I'm not saying that.
Oh, I know, I understand it. But you know, where else do you want to spend our money, than to bolster up another taxing body that is willing to work with us to get something done? You know, we've had deals before, and I'm going to clear the air right now. I've been told this time and time again. The Village of Cary has never voted on a development opportunity at Maplewood. It was always the assumption that if that was developed and they sold the property, they would move the transportation center to the junior high campus. Well, that was taken up. You know, I just want to make sure that everybody knows that this is absolutely factual. We have never voted on it. We had cursory reviews with developers to telling them to prohibit the 300 homes that they wanted to put there, or the unit, because that's not what our community wants, or the 250 that came in.
And they couldn't
That's
make it
nobody
work
wants.
with 3.7 or 2.75
Correct.
million.
So when
This
you
is
look,
we do it, but
when you backpedal this whole thing and look at it from a different perspective, this is the time and the place to make this happen. That's not going to be a burden to the Village of Cary. It's not going to be a burden to the school district. We want to help the school
Right.
district. We want to
we have a
provide
wonderful
for our school
I have
district.
nothing against our school district.
I know,
you
and that's one of the things that gives me the gumption to say, look, this is a really, I've said this along. I've met with Dr. White, Mr. Shepard. I've met with Stacy Salt and Dee Darling, and I said, my goal in this as the mayor is that we have a win-win-win situation. The community above all has to be the winner in this. School district has to be the winner, as so does the village. And I believe we are capsulating all of this with this IGA.
And to make sure, Mr. Miller, you have time to answer or ask your other questions, circling back to your original question, it is a great benefit to the school district. Obviously, we collaborated to make this work for both sides. One of the other slides did point it out. The benefit is getting these two long vacant parcels. Again, kind of the whole reason
Paper
TIFs
property,
exist
yeah.
that can't develop on their own. Give them a reason, an ability to develop. And this IGA gets Maplewood the opportunity through our RFQ process. This gives these commercial parcels now subdivided to a size that is more desirable in today's market to be developed. And again, benefit all taxing bodies, but the village included. So, any other questions?
Long way around, but I thought that's where you were going with this. What's your next question, sir?
That's really about it. Just seems that the school district is the biggest winner to it, and I don't see any benefit to the taxpayers for them getting this great windfall that we're able to provide to them. It's a great windfall. It's a great deal, and they also to it, but I've not seen anything from the school district saying, I don't go to school district meetings, I gotta start going to it, but I don't hear, they gave us a nice presentation today at the chamber thing to it, and what their $20 million bond that they want to do it to fix the schools have been neglected. It's a
Separate issue.
whole never,
Separate issue.
So I'm just curious, seeing how great windfall they have, but getting property they can sell, transportation building built without them having to spend any money to it. They got a great windfall, and it's a great thing for the village for both ways, for the property and everything else all to it. So I guess my real issue is with the school district. I'm sorry.
Well, I appreciate that. We get a lot of people concerned about other taxing districts. They all thought, everybody thinks they come
I'm
here.
glad it's resolved.
Well, it is. I'm
it's a great
very
thing,
pleased,
but-
like I mentioned, I'm very proud of our staffs by working together. I think that they've done a phenomenal
beyond.
job,
I think
and they've
they've
kept us abreast the entire way. There are some things that there was taught that we're not being transparent. Some of this we just couldn't talk about. And
I've been to
I
so
think
many
we're,
meetings.
I
You're
think
very
that.
transparent. People
Pardon
that
me?
complain about stuff. Many of the meetings I come to, you're very transparent.
Right.
People don't listen and people don't get involved.
Right.
So, but no.
Well,
That's it.
thank you. I appreciate it.
I think
No,
we're all good.
if I could, I would
Yes.
just, Dave, I want to make a comment real quick to your points, and I appreciate those points, but when I was listening to you talk about it, it reminded me an awful lot about the Meyer project years ago, which I know, I saw you at every one of those meetings there too, and you know all the difficulties that the village board had when we were going through that, right? And I think you would be one that could say that at those meetings, you heard a lot of the comments like you heard from the folks tonight, and probably heard from other people. And there was a distrust then. There was a concern about what it was going, the benefit was going to, who was going to Meyer, right? We were
Yeah.
allowing them to mine longer. Well, fast forward, and what does it look like now?
Oh, I know.
Wouldn't you say?
I'm a very proponent of it. You don't
Just let
realize
me
the end
finish.
product can
No,
be,
I get it, but just let me
Let him
finish that
finish, yeah.
comment. If you look at it now, wouldn't you say that the investment in allowing Meyer to mine for a little bit longer, admittedly, to the detriment of the people supposedly that lived back there, has turned out to be a wonderful asset for
I
Cary?
always thought it was. I thought it was a great deal. I
Yeah.
thought you
So I
got a
think that,
great
you know,
knot
there
from
has to
Meyer and everything
be-
else to it, and the village got a very big chunk of money for it. It got a lot of they had their Village Garage burned down, they were able to replace trucks and stuff. It was a great win-win for everybody to it.
And I think
I think that was very even both ways to it. My question here was that the biggest winner in this is the school district.
Yeah, I think
That's my only real issue.
I think it's easy to see it that way, and I can appreciate not only the residents, but yourself feeling that way, because today, you're not looking at the second piece of it. We're not seeing.
Oh, I am. I'm seeing
what-
there'll be more tax dollars coming in, 'cause we'll be back in a tax roll once it's
No,
sold.
but you
there's all
don't,
that
you're
good
not
things.
seeing the development piece, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, I do.
You
I
don't
s-
know what's going to be there, we don't know what's
No,
going to be
but-
there. So, until such time that is laid out, and believe me, that's not gonna happen overnight.
No.
Then I think you can sit back and say the decision was right, was wrong, or maybe it was somewhere in between. But today, I don't think it's valid to be able to say that the school district gets everything in the village and the residents don't get anything. I just don't feel you can say that.
Well, I don't think it's not costing the village anything with the TIF going into it and everything else. But the benefit the school is getting, I don't see it trickling down to the taxpayer. They're getting a great
Today.
deal. And that's
Today.
that's my issue there, is the taxpayers aren't getting a benefit from a great deal brokered by both of them, but there's no real,
Mr. Miller, but the village will see the benefit of it when it
Oh, yeah.
produces TIF dollars in that district at Maplewood.
and once
The
it gets
realization
developed,
is
we get-
later,
there's
not
be
now.
great
Of course, the
benefits
school
to the
district's seeing it
village
now.
once it's developed with the
Right.
new tax going into the TIF and everything else to do more infrastructure. I know the whole
Right.
system to it, but.
I just wanted to address the
Yeah.
fact that it's not quite apples, to apples
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
You're mentioning that the school district looks like a giant winner, and I think everybody would acknowledge it's a positive investment in the future of our children in this town by what's happening here. But you can't say that the residents aren't getting anything. That's not a fair statement.
Okay.
We don't know yet, and we hope that whatever the
Yeah.
residents do
But
get,
the immediate money is a bigger benefit to the school. It's gonna be, in the long run, it's gonna be a great thing for the village, because we get some money, some properties back in a tax
No
roll.
argument about that.
Getting some development and everything else, but the back school lot's not gonna be taxed. That's untaxable too, so it's taking another little parcel off tax, they didn't pay much for empty property, but there's another aspect there, that now is gonna be off the tax roll, but the other ones may be developed to reimburse that to it, so. It's a lot.
It's more long-term vision.
Yeah.
It's more,
Yep.
you got to look at,
And
not
it's a
just
great
here and
long-term
now, you're
vision.
trying to look at long-term
I think
planning.
In the long run, it's gonna be a wonderful thing.
Right.
But in the short, that's my issue.
Sure.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else that would like to offer some comments?
Good evening. I just would request that after the public makes their comments, that I would love to make some comments of my own.
Okay,
But I
sure.
would like to give everyone the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Dr. White.
Chris Reiki, 446 Lloyd in Cary. I'm not sure how this TIF tax works, but you got the Maplewood property through that. And now all the property for the access road is TIF property. So is that the way that for the access road, is that how you're gonna acquire that property, going after the businesses?
No. I'll just correct you right now. The potential future access road to the Maplewood property is already owned by the Village of Cary. It's been a dedicated roadway for 50 years. That property that's behind there it belongs to the Village of Cary. It's a dedicated roadway. Except the Maplewood School portion. The road that goes back there, we own that, that's a dedicated road.
What about the property as you get out towards, like, by the fire station out that way? 'Cause there's a
We
couple-
own the property there is a deeded property that we own that goes all the way out to Carroll Algonquin Road.
Okay.
Yeah, there's
What-
no
There's no
businesses
road.
in the way for that western portion, as the mayor mentioned. Just the Maplewood School property itself, that's part of the alignment, and then through the Metra commuter lots. But Metra is one of our partners in this project as well.
Okay.
And there's no need for any of the business, none of the businesses will be impacted. As a matter of fact, they would be, there's more of a benefit because it's kind of a driveway right now. It's not really a road, because all those businesses back there have a Carroll Algonquin address. So it's kind of a driveway to get back to where they are. So they'll get a road now.
One other question. How was the TIF district determined? I mean, the boundaries of it?
It took a while to go there. We hired a consultant to come in, and they did a look at what the community, they polled the board. We had meetings about deciding what our goals were, what were the areas of concern. I love to tell people this, Maplewood is not the entire TIF district. It's a very small portion of the TIF district. It's going to be a big impact, but we did the TIF, it's all the way from the river along Route 14, including the downtown True Value Hardware, and out to Carroll Algonquin Road, where the Eggville is and all that. That's where the boundaries were. We hired a consultant to help us make that determination. They looked at our vision. We wanted to have the least impact on other properties so that we wouldn't be taking more than we actually thought. Heck, you know, it was told that I get my way all the time. If it was my way, I would have TIF'd all the way out to Three Oaks Road to help us spur some of the changes that were out over there. So we, as a board, decided that this would be the best way to do it. This would be the best boundaries for us to capitalize on what we're looking for to capitalize on. And this, right now, is an unbelievable opportunity. The district will be the biggest beneficiary, and I'm glad about that. I could hold my head high on that. I think it's a really good opportunity. So it's actually starting to fall into place, as well as some of the existing businesses that we have in the downtown that are looking for some of the grants that we have for that. So it's starting to work.
That was my next question. It stops at Carroll Algonquin. Why is Jewel, Walgreens, all of that stuff in the district?
Because it was determined that the boundaries would end at Carroll Algonquin Road.
Yeah, that was a separate process that was done last year, and all in accordance with the TIF Act and all those requirements. But yeah, obviously, the goal is including the areas in the TIF that were that could potentially benefit from development if desired. Obviously, you look at the Jewel Shopping Center, it is, if not fully occupied, very nearly fully occupied with quality tenants. So that's not an area that was in dire need of assistance at this point.
Okay.
Thank you for your question. Is there anybody else that has a comment?
Hi, Tom Bai. I live at 538 Alita, right across from Maplewood. I like what everything has happened, but my concern is the boundaries where the school, the new bus barn will come down Industrial Drive. Many of the residents that used to travel down Industrial Drive don't anymore, and we cut through Greenfields only because of those 3-4 major buildings that are there, companies that are there that has semi-trucks as well as the FedEx department. I mean, that street is super busy, so I know you did your research, but just take another look at it because that intersection there and going down that street is crazy.
Right, and that's what, did you want to?
I was going to say that was a comment earlier from one of the trustees that we share. That's something we will continue to look at and make sure that is maintained as a safe travel way, not just for the buses, but for all traffic. Appreciate that.
They're not going to be traveling to Carroll Algonquin Road on Industrial Drive. They'll be traveling to Georgetown on there if they choose to do that. So, you know, we've talked about this. We have worked very well with the school district with regarding the engineering, and you know, our village administrator happens to be a traffic engineer as well. So we look at those things very seriously to make sure that they have safe passage and that won't be cluttering up the roadway.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to address the village board before we open up the discussion of the board members?
I'm trying to figure out.
Okay, would you just please state your name again for the record, please?
Michael Mills. Want to know where I live?
Sure.
Cary, Illinois.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm still trying to figure out the route from Maplewood School that comes out toward the fire department on Cary Algonquin Road.
Well,
is that where the road would run along the tracks on the south side of the tracks?
Yes. It would be the road from, if you were to say, you know, along where the fire department is, you take that, that's our access road.
Sure.
And that'll go towards the west side of potential development at Maplewood.
Right. I'm just thinking about the 10 or 15 houses that are probably there that are going to wonder about that road being basically within spitting distance of their backyard.
Sure. I'd be happy to address that. We've had many open houses about that. We've had a lot of the residents that are on Norman that back up to that in explaining how this will look, what the roadway will look like, they were actually asked to vote on how they wanted it to be. There will be berming, there will be trees. This is all speculative. We have no plans. There's absolutely no plans right now to do anything. But what we did when we rolled this out, we had people in this meeting. As a matter of fact, that's when we had to vacate here because there was a tornado warning. We all had to go downstairs. That was the one meeting that we had here. But we had tables here, and we had engagement with our engineers that helped us do this to find out what the neighbors thought about this. If this was the way, what configuration worked for you? What did you like?
And what did they say?
There was a couple people that, people don't like change. They don't understand change.
Well, I don't think change is a problem. Change and progress is a good thing. I just don't think people like the fact that a driveway or a road with potentially hundreds of cars is going to be basically through their yards. Whether you build berms or not, you're going to hear it.
I understand, but the property's been deeded a road for 50 years. So people that I've talked to,
regardless of that amount of time or not, Mr. Mayor, the people that live there are going to be the ones that deal with it. I live just one street over from it.
Sure.
It's not going to bother me that much. Traffic make it worse. That's how towns grow.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think those people are going to really appreciate that because of what's happening with the property
We
in Maplewood.
definitely appreciate that, and that's why that Maplewood Access Road, there's currently a Phase 1 engineering study underway. The mayor mentioned there's been previous public meetings about that, so that process is still underway. So what that does is that sets the, establishes what the likely alignment for the road would be, establishes public input, gets that feedback, so there actually, as part of that Phase 1 study process before it resolves and finishes, there's going to be
Considering
another
that's
public
still
meeting
an
this.
ongoing process, as you're saying, what other alternative would there be?
And that's what the Phase 1 analysis
Right, but
does review.
There doesn't seem to be any other alternative to get those people in and out of whatever is built on the Maplewood property other than having them go out on the other streets and down Main Street, north and south. There is no
And precisely,
access
like
or
we
input.
said, that is a separate process, and I encourage you to take a look at the project website. It's Maplewood, correct me if I'm wrong, Courtney or Brian, MaplewoodAccessRoad.info, I believe is the name of the website. Well, it's on our, there's a link to it from our village website, but that has a separate process, and we are having additional public input to that as part of that. So there will be another meeting either, I think this winter is probably the next timeline for that to occur. And before that road, if it does become reality, there is additional public input to come. Just wanted you to be aware.
I'm all for school districts getting more money. I'm not for school districts getting more money because there's alternative means to doing what I see and hear and I'm learning about here. I drive a school bus for Barrington Schools of Class. Can you get a school bus underneath the railroad tracks on Cary-Algonquin Road?
Yes.
Okay. It's good to know. And just in case anybody doesn't know, you have to stop at every railroad crossing, even the one by True Value, which, as far as I know, is pretty dormant most of the time or all of the time. I don't know where I'm leading with that. It just
It's a very heavily trafficked intersection.
and Cary-Algonquin, and the other part about this road is, how's it going to impact the fire department?
The fire department, they've been part of our discussions from day one.
Okay, and how is it going to impact the fire department?
We're really not, this isn't part of the discussion tonight. I'd be more than happy to sit down and go over with you. The fire chief happens to be sitting right back here too. He's very engaged in our meetings and he understands what we're doing. And I believe that we have a wonderful relationship with the Fire Protection District, and they are always engaged in what we're doing. They have been part of the process since day one. We've showed them what an intersection change would look like, and how it would affect their apparatus getting to and from the firehouse. And we're looking at everything. It's not like we're just making these decisions. We've been discussing this access road for a couple of years. And we've had many meetings, very, very productive meetings. You asked me what people say. A lot of people say, yeah, I knew that there was going to road back here.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Productive for who?
For the community to know what could happen in their backyard, and for the regular community.
Like
not
a
just,
road going through their backyard?
Correct.
Okay. I don't know a lot about zoning or things like that, but the property north of Aldi, why couldn't that just be rezoned and the bus barn put there, as is apparently going to be, and the Maplewood School raised and single-family homes put there, which would not impact the traffic situation as greatly as we're talking about. Single-family homes, again, unless there's developers or real estate agents or people who will benefit by that situation, and they would benefit by single-family homes or townhouses or condominiums or whatever you want to call them.
Well, to answer your question, from what we've been told from the development community, it doesn't make financial sense for them, or a single-family home developer to acquire the Maplewood property. They can't make the numbers work.
Because they can't put enough houses there?
Correct.
Oh, I find that hard to believe, honestly.
Well, this is what we're.
I mean, look at what's been built by the senior center. It is an eyesore, and I drive by it every day. And I couldn't understand why they used different color bricks, and then I figured.
Well, they knew it was going to be painted all along. It's just, we had people coming and addressing us like this when we were discussing selling the senior center. People didn't want us to sell it because that belonged to the Village of Cary, the former. So we had no use for it. We asked every single taxing district, do you want this senior center? We have no use for it. We need to offload this. No one wanted it. And then we had a bunch of people coming in here saying that they want us to preserve this. We're like, okay, let's look at something from a different view. How can we preserve this? And what's going on is we have a deficit of market rate apartment buildings in the Village of Cary. We do. And when this developer came and was willing to do something like this that would preserve it in his history. I don't know if you've seen it. I'm getting a tour. Anybody wants to come tomorrow? Brian, I'm throwing it out there. I have a tour of it tomorrow at 5 o'clock.
What is that, sir? A tour?
The tour of the School Street apartments, the
ones
schoolhouse
by
apartments.
By the
right.
senior center. I've been in them.
So I'm just telling you that we are trying to make things work for the entire community. For a number of people that wanted us to take it down and put something else, there was the same number of people that said, why are you tearing this beautiful building down? It's a piece of our history. And this board decided this is a good opportunity for us to maintain a property that we could sell off. That property has never, ever been on the tax rolls. So now all the taxing districts will benefit from that piece of property because there is now a private development on there. And that will return a very nice chunk of change to all of the taxing districts moving forward.
And couldn't the senior center, as I've seen it, because again, I was in it, I looked at one of the apartments, been rehabbed, refurnished, as they did, without building what was next to it?
Yeah. I'll answer this one last, because it's really not part of our discussion right now. Okay. I've been reminded, but I tend to answer people's questions when I'm asked. That senior services are handled by the Park District. They chose to vacate our facility because it wasn't safe, it wasn't providing the adequate space that our seniors need. And we tend to agree with them. They know what's best for the seniors, and providing them with safe parking, safe transportation in and out of the building, an adequate regular elevator rather than the antiquated one that was in the former senior center. So we looked at all those different things, and the Park District notified us, said that they're going to move the senior operation to the community center. So, again, that's another taxing district trying to provide the services that are needed for that segment of our population.
I think that's wonderful. My mother lived there. Again, the house was built in 1978 is when we moved in here.
Mm-hmm. It's
She
been a
did
lot
use
of
that
different
senior
things.
center. And I guess what I just don't understand is why the adjacent buildings were built to the right or left when they could have just rehabbed and turned that into apartments and kept the beautiful architecture there, instead of adding what I consider to be two white elephant eyesores.
Mm-hmm. I understand, but
now,
again, it's like I mentioned before. I'm going to end here. I'm going to.
Okay, I don't. I'm sorry. I'm way over my 3 minutes. I appreciate my 6 or 9
But that's
minutes.
how we roll here.
Okay.
If somebody's got something to say, we're going to listen to what they have to say.
I appreciate very much that everyone's letting me go on and on. I have one last thing, and you can address it or not. You, sir, used the word transparency, and that's what we want. So why are there so many closed-door meetings?
Well, I can actually echo what Dr. White mentioned at the school board meeting, that obviously we also strive for transparency, but certain parameters with regards from the legal aspect require the school district and the village to conduct some of these discussions under the allowable exemptions of the Open Meetings Act for review with regards to whether it be pending litigation or purchase and sale of property. There are things legally that we had to operate under, and Dr. White said it very well at the school board meeting. That's not our desire, but we have to follow the parameters to make sure the process is done correctly and appropriately. So we apologize that it appears or maybe it feels like there's a lack of transparency, but there's a requirement and a legal process we did have to follow.
And I understand your point, but any closed-door meeting means there isn't transparency. And we all could be in the public meeting, and you could simply make a point of saying, we can't discuss this because there is a certain law that prohibits this part of the discussion. We'll never know that. It's closed door.
You do now.
Before we go into,
I'll let the attorney answer, perhaps.
Go ahead, Scott.
Well, we do announce the reason for any executive session that the village board is taking part in before we go into closed session. Anytime.
And that should be what it is.
It is.
And that's exactly what the board does
But
every
that
time it
doesn't
goes into
answer the
closed
question
session.
of why we could not participate in a closed-door meeting, and you could simply say, this is a subject that, under the law, we can only discuss to a certain point of interest.
I understand what you're saying, and we did that. So.
The agenda tonight says closed-door meetings on there.
We have another closed-door meeting.
That's what I'm talking about. Everybody seems to want the same thing in this whole...
All right, Mr. Mills, thank you very much. We're going to
You're
close
welcome, but
public comment now.
This isn't transparent, Mr. Mayor. This is closed-door meetings and backroom deals, and people are getting the benefit of this without our input. Again, last question. I live on Arthur Drive, right by Maplewood School. How many people here walk within distance is the development there going to personally affect? Anybody raise their hand? It's going to personally affect me. You live close enough to the school, sir. Well, there you go.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Mills.
Apparently nobody up here it affects, but this
It
is
affects
what they're
me
gonna
because
do.
I work with the entire community as a whole.
No, you're not working with the entire community if it affects people to the point that you will not listen to them. That is
I'll
not
beg to differ with you,
transparency,
and
that is
with
not
that
listening
comment,
to
we're
people,
going to
sir.
close public comment. Thank you very
Yes,
much.
Well, transparency does not exist in this group of people I see in front of me. I won't say it's everyone, but I believe it's almost everyone.
Thank you
Good
for your
night.
comments.
You're welcome.
Okay,
Can I say something?
yes.
Mr. Mills, so under the agenda up here, it does say what we're discussing in executive session. And some of the things that we've discussed in the past have to do with talking about properties that we were potentially looking at to present to the school board. And if we were going to have that be public information, maybe we couldn't go ahead and get the best deal for that property. So those are things that we're talking about in executive session. So kind of just wanted to give you a little background from myself being on the board and why those things are handled privately until we can go ahead and share it with the public.
And I appreciate that help. Thank you very much.
Right, and it is, we're also limited. So we can't just talk about something that's not on here. So it has to be something that falls under a guideline that says this is set for executive session. So we can't sit there and make any backroom deals. We'd have to come here before the public and go through the deal. So I just want you, just to kind of piggyback on what Trustee Weinheimer was saying, it is extremely specific. We have our attorney present. If anyone gets off the rails there, he has to bring us back and say, you can't talk about that. You only can talk about specific issues, and we list what those are.
Okay.
Everything we discuss is recorded, and then those meeting minutes are reviewed and
Sometimes
released to the public over time.
Over time.
Right.
And how much time does that allow all of us to have the chance to
It's
rebut any
different.
information
Each
we
executive
disagree
session
with?
is different.
I'm sorry?
Each executive session is different on when it's going to be released, when the minutes are released.
Mr. Mills, I would happy to invite you to have a conversation with us at Village Hall. We can kind of go over all of our procedures and what we do and why we do what we do. Some, like the trustees have mentioned, sometimes we can't talk about things because it will affect the deal, especially with developers. Because if we were to talk about a particular development deal in public, that they lose their credibility with there could be another developer that will kind of want to move in on their deal. So we have to respect that. And a majority of the developers request that we keep things under wraps until they're ready to pull the trigger and execute a deal. So we try to be as fair and as transparent as possible, but sometimes we just can't do that. And like Trustee Weinhammer and Trustee McAlpine noted, everything that we talk about is listed on our agenda when we're going to go into a separate meeting for our the executive session. And a lot of times, we'll just adjourn our meeting from there because there's no action. And sometimes we will come out of executive session, we'll be voting on something, and then we will have an action item after that. But typically, for the last year or so that we've had, and it's only been since we've been dealing with the school district and property acquisition that we have had these meetings. So I welcome an opportunity for you to come in and we can explain how we do, why we do what we do, so that you mentioned before that you thought you were ignorant on some of these things. I don't want you to be. I want you to feel like you can come and talk to us.
Well,
we can work
I
things
use
out.
that term for myself, and it applies, and I guess maybe I should revise it to being uninformed. And I agree with what you're saying as far as I would love to have, I'd certainly like to know when I can sit down with anyone individually or as a group. That would be wonderful. I just wonder if, as you were saying, certain things can't be discussed because of developers or this or that, and we all know about insider trading and inside information and things like that.
Well, we're going
to think that there is some inside information for some people that maybe, or maybe it's a really good educated guess.
No.
But
Let's move on, sir, and you contact Village Hall. They will set up a meeting with me. I have office hours on Thursdays from 2 to 5. I'm at Village Hall every afternoon, so come and talk to me about things. I would advise calling because I might be in another meeting or something. Happy to sit down and discuss these things.
And I look forward to it, sir.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The public comment is closed. Dr. White.
Sure. One, I want to say good evening to the trustees, to the mayor, and village administration. I guess I'm the new kid on the block. I can't say that for too much longer because I have a year. But, I came into this role dealing with the Maplewood issue and the conversation going forward. And so although I know that there is still a lot of mending to do between the two organizations, I do hope that this is the beginning to us having a more collaborative relationship going forward. In the end, I want to address a few things, and I promise I will not use this as a platform to talk about the referendum, but I just want to make sure that there are some immediate advantages that will be provided to taxpayers because of this IGA. For one, yes, we currently do have a referendum that we're looking at asking taxpayers for $20 million. However, that does not cover all of the current delayed and maintenance that needs to occur to our buildings. What this deal does allow us to do is to only ask for $20 million from the taxpayers, which also then still continues to provide some savings from what their current tax rate is that comes to the schools. As far as this deal and the amount that we agreed upon, I think there needs to be some consideration that if we had moved forward and zoning had been approved to build on the Maplewood location, as was shown in the presentation, that would have cost us about $6 million. To relocate, that is $6 million plus the relocation cost. So purchasing of land would cost, I'm shocked to say I've become an expert on commercial property in Cary, looking at different spots, anywhere from $800,000 to $1.5 million for the size of land that we have. So you put that plus $6 million. Also, if we had built, for example, at the junior high, we would have had to reconstruct and do a lot of site improvements to allow traffic for car drop-off and buses to leave. So that would have been anywhere from $300,000 to another $500,000. So we would have been looking at today, $8 million. By the time we probably get ready to, prices increase. And so I don't want it to be assumed that we're making out on this deal or that this money will not be reinvested in taxpayer assets, which are our school buildings. So all this allows us, again, to provide, still go and ask the community for a referendum that would still provide some savings over current rates, but also allow us to take care of much needed safety improvements in our buildings, and to make sure our students and staff are safe, put new roofs on buildings, repair windows that are failing, repave parking lots. So I just want to be clear that there are some immediate benefits to that. I know there has also been, actually right coming into, there was disagreement around the TIF, and this does allow the Maplewood property to eventually come back on the rolls, but we do acknowledge that this will be a temporary time where the school district will not see the benefits of that land being developed. So this also helps assist offsetting that so we can continue to provide a great education for the students of Cary. So I want to end there, and just once again, I want to say thank you to Mr. Morimoto, Mr. Simmons, very special thank you to Mr. Shepherd, because numbers is not my forte. But I just, although this has been a challenging process, again, I don't think it's fixed all of the issues that have transpired over a decade. I do believe that this gives us the opportunity to make a step in the right direction. So thank you.
I agree. Thank you very much, Dr. White. Okay, let's discuss this at the board level. Who wants to go first? Trustee Weinhammer?
I don't have any comments at this time.
Okay, thank you. Trustee McAlpine?
Always go this side first, don't you? It's ladies first. Huh?
Ladies first.
Okay. No, what I would say is that I hear what everyone is saying here, but I've also heard people say it's time for a decision to be made and something to be done on Maplewood and the whole situation. I did go out to the transportation center. I did see the status of it. It was absolutely bad. I mean, it was not, it needed to be done. It needs to be addressed. So I look at this as an opportunity to show our residents who have elected members of both boards that we're putting their common interest, their goals first. It's not about the village winning or the school district winning. It's about the people of Cary winning, the children of Cary, the residents of Cary, looking at a long-term plan. It has to be long-term. You can't look at it here and now. You have to say, hey, what is going to happen? And you have to plan, do some long-term planning. So I am very, very happy that the boards were able to work through, everyone through Director Morimoto and Director Simmons and both of our, Dr. White and Mr. Shepherd, and get everything accomplished. That was our goal. I think there were tasks from both the school board side and from the village board side that said, hey, we want to come up with the agreement that is going to work here. So I'm thinking that it's a great solution and that the residents of Cary should be very proud that they see boards working together, and that that's what everyone should expect that from their elected officials. And I think that that's something that these two boards have done. So I'm very happy with it. Whether you agree with what the decision on how it's happening, the boards are working together, and that is a step in the right direction. So.
Thank you. Trustee Walworth?
Good evening. Thank you. Dr. White, what a wonderful first year, huh? I mean,
It has been.
It's been outstanding, and the feedback in the community on you and your job personally has been outstanding. I want to thank you for coming to Cary 26. And Mr. Shepherd, thank you for your work in getting this all moving in the right direction. It has been definitely a long time coming. You know, they say that a good deal for two parties usually ends up in both parties walking away feeling like, you know, it's okay, but I missed out on a little bit, or maybe I didn't get everything I want. And I think there is some degree of that here, but it's incumbent upon us to really make sure that we're doing the best in a situation where we have this opportunity. The mayor keeps mentioning how this is an opportunity. He said to all of us individually as we discussed it, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for everybody involved, and I think we're treating it as such. They're not easy decisions. You know, we hear everybody on their comments. You know, we hear comments of folks who are in support of that maybe don't come to the microphone. We hear people who are opposed to different ideas and don't come to the microphone. So there is interaction between both boards and the community, and we certainly listen to everybody. But there's also a time when those of us who are elected, who are in those positions, have to lead. And there's a saying about leading is it's really pretty simple, but it ain't easy. And none of these decisions that we make are easy, but some cases they are simple. And I thank everybody for all the hard work they did putting this together.
Thank you. Trustee Collier? Trustee Dudek?
Oh. Okay. I want to address everybody, including my fellow trustees. I've lived here 21 years. I've seen a lot of good things happen. I've seen some things that have not occurred maybe the way I would have liked them to occur, but that's just, the cards that were dealt at that particular time. I'm in my 18th year in public service, so I don't take this lightly. It's not all been in Cary, it's been in other communities, so I have the benefit of having perspective in bigger towns than Cary and seeing how things are getting done. I can remember very vividly a phone call I got from a previous village administrator, Chris Clark, roughly 12 years ago, saying, District 26 is putting Maplewood up for sale. I immediately said buy it. The reason I said buy it that time is because, just like today, it is by far the biggest single piece of property in this town that could show a meaningful change to the way our core business district looks today and in the future. There are no other spots of 15, 16 acres downtown, just none. They don't exist. So to all the comments and the concerns about what might go there, I agree with you 100%. I don't want 400 units there, but I also know, and for your benefit, Mr. Mills, I'm in banking, so I see commercial developments all the time. No builder will come in here and buy this for single-family homes and put up 20 homes. He won't make the money. It can't be done. You'd have to have $1 million homes that you sell for $3 million in order for him to recoup his investment. It just won't happen. On the other hand, nobody here wants it to be 400 units. So somewhere during the process going forward, and that process is not going to happen overnight, it's going to take time, we will all come to a conclusion that is best for the community. And I think that if we do it the way we've done almost everything that I've seen on the board since I've served for 10 years here, 14 years here, it's always with an open door. We've had public meetings in Holiday Inn and Crystal Lake when we were redeveloping Cary Lake. We've had meetings in the old Village Hall when property on First Street was being redeveloped. And, at the time, people hated those things. You look at them now, the First Street apartments are probably the best-looking apartments we have in town. And I don't know how many people here have gone to Cary Lake, but it's the best public amenity we have, probably the biggest one that we have. And in the future will be much better. The plans for Hoffman Park and what we do at Cary Lake are continuing to evolve, and it'll be a wonderful place. I will tell you, some people here know this, some don't. When this Maplewood project looked like it was falling apart, personally, I was extremely disappointed, because this has been, all my time in Cary, my most passionate project we were looking at. So I reached out to the mayor and to village administrator, and I said, can I have a meeting with Dee Darling? Do you mind if I talk to her? Because I wanted to, for myself, hear some of the things that you mentioned, transparency, closed-door meetings. I don't hear about that stuff. I haven't heard about that stuff. So I wanted to hear about it from Dee. And she graciously said yes. We had a small meeting, it was 4 people. I will tell you, when I sat down, I mentioned this to the mayor after the fact, I thought in 5 minutes we were going to get up and we'd be done, because Ms. Darling had mentioned some things, much like I heard from the folks sitting there in the back. And I said to her very honestly, just like I say to you, I wasn't aware of a lot of those things. So I wanted to give her my perspective and from what I knew. And from that, I found out from her that a lot of the stuff that I communicated to her, she wasn't aware of. That was roughly, Eric, do you remember, 3 months ago? 4 months? I don't even remember. It was quite some time ago. From that meeting came really where we are today. I think the village and the school district board became more open. There's, like everybody has mentioned, there's still a tremendous amount of hard feelings. Those hard feelings have to be set aside. We have to work with the school district the same way we work with the fire department, the same way we work with the park district, the library board, everybody. We are not, a community like Winnetka or Wilmette or North Shores or Naperville, suburbs that have Schaumburg, that have huge budgets, that have a lot of excess money. We don't have that. Plus, we're never going to be that size. We probably never make 20,000 people in this town. But what we have the opportunity to do is make Cary the best as it can be. And in my mind, for the last 12 years, I think that the Maplewood property will eventually develop into something that everybody in this room, everybody on this board will be very proud of. It may not please everybody. It may not please me when we finally get to the ultimate development agreement. But it'll be something for everybody to be positive and proud about. And I think it's time, in 14 years, I get very, very tired about hearing, this side of things. I think it's time to maybe turn a new page, and for the public, the board, and the other taxing bodies to work together. Because if we don't, you know what? We're going nowhere. We'll look like Fox River Grove or some other communities that have a lot of blight and haven't been able to move forward. We don't want to look like that. We should look like towns that all collectively get together and accomplish something. And a little bit of soapboxing, so I apologize for that. But I think it is time to turn a new page and to look in a different direction and work together. So thank you for listening to me, and I appreciate your, yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, only because the gentleman addressed me personally would I like to say just a couple more words. I appreciate what you said about the apartments on First Street. They are definitely needed. But the building that was there, the manufacturing was going to, that building was derelict anyhow, was going to be raised. That was open land anyhow. That's no big deal. The land that we're talking about where the school is, the bus barn can be built north of Aldi, no problem at all. The school could be raised and the ground could be leveled, since no developer wants to build there because it's not viable because of the amount of land there for a subdivision. But you talk about this being a 20,000 person town, it's 14,000 plus now. It's easily gonna be 20,000 if those people move in there. 17,000, excuse me, I have my numbers wrong. So if it doesn't impact anybody up there, that's fine. But it impacts the people who will immediately live around that neighborhood. And you talk about taking care of the village of Cary and the people, and you are not listening to a part of it.
I appreciate your comment. I respectfully disagree. I spent an awful lot of my time at the last election going in the Maplewood property and collecting, or in the Maplewood area and collecting signatures. And I spoke to a lot of people in the area. And sure, some of the people wanted to kick me out when I told them I was in favor of redevelopment. But you know what? It was over 50% of the people I talked to that hoped something more positive would happen on that property. So, you have your opinions. I have mine. I respect yours. I hope you respect mine. And I hope you also respect the opinions of the neighbors in your community, not all of whom are of the same mindset that you might be.
Oh, I don't believe they would all be, just as we all have our own different opinion here.
Okay, thank you very much.
Raise the building and build a park, and that would be a wonderful community center right there, instead of affecting the people on the immediate streets and the immediate neighborhood.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mills. We'll continue this discussion at another time. Trustee Stefani?
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you. Dr. White, first off, my kids love you. You've done wonders already, so I want to say thank you personally. I am extremely happy that the two boards were able to meet, come to an agreement on what to do with the bus barn. So I just want to kind of say thank you to not only our trustees here, but also the Board of Education, and I know some that are here as well. So I know we all may not be in favor of it, but putting kids first is a top priority of mine, has been for my entire life. So again, just want to thank you guys, and thank you, District 26.
Thank you. Any other comments, discussion? We have a motion on the table. Could we do a roll call, please?
Stefani?
Yes.
Walrath?
Yes.
Collier?
Yes.
McAlpine?
Yes.
Weinhammer?
Yes.
Dudek?
Yes.
No. we could talk later, okay? We're way behind on this, and we still have another meeting. You know how to get a hold of me. I returned your call yesterday. Didn't hear back from you. Just saying. Okay, administrator's report.
Thank you, Mayor. We have an update on Cary Main Street Fest you alluded to earlier. I won't take a lot of your time. I know it looks like a lot of pictures, but again, the festival is back on in cooperation and in equal partnership with the Chamber of Commerce, Saturday, September 28th and Sunday, September 29th. Little updates, you'll see this on the Chamber's outreach, that we have 2 days of music. You see the 4 acts that are happening the first day, headlined by Tennessee Whiskey, a Chris Stapleton tribute band. Sunday has 3 additional bands, headlined by Boy Band Review. We'll have food trucks and food vendors throughout the entire event. You see some of the participants listed here, as well as the opportunity to take advantage of our local restaurants in and around downtown. Saturday, also in addition to those music and food events, we have the Chicago Trivia Guys having a free event at 3 o'clock in the South Parking Lot Tents, which we'll show you layout in a minute. And in partnership with the Rotary Club of Cary Grove, we have their Craft Brew Festival moving from Cary Lake, where it was the last couple years, to our downtown in front and center within our festival, 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock on Saturday at the Bebo parking lot.
And those tickets are available online to purchase.
I won't go into great detail here, but it's a general site layout, very similar to the past Cary Main Street festivals, where we close Main Street from High Road to Spring Street. We will include the intersection of Spring Street, however, to give the festival a little bit more room, take advantage of the newly renovated downtown streetscape, and also incorporate Alfresco Alley into the mix of the music and food. Sunday, in addition to, again, the food and the music, we have Singo, which is, if I'm not mistaken, music, bingo with music, I'll put it that way, from 3 o'clock, again, free in the South Parking Lot tent, a bags tournament at 1 o'clock in the BMO lot, and then for the morning, the anchor of our event from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. is the Cary Farmers Market, which has had great success, again, hosted by the Rotary Club. We thank them again, being moved to downtown this year, and they'll also take front center stage for Sunday. And then lastly, we have a partnership with the Cary Grove High School. There'll be an art fair from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. in the BMO lot. You'll be able to see some of the school students' works from past years, and I understand they might actually also be marketing them for sale as well.
Have we confirmed homecoming parade yet?
We sure have.
Oh, no.
More to come on that.
More to come on that. The homecoming parade is going to be on Sunday before homecoming now. This is just hot off the press. We are working the logistics as we talk. It'll be Sunday.
Because it's the same weekend.
Because it's the same weekend,
Exactly.
But our festival will be done by 5. Theirs starts at 6. So we're working on the logistics right now. Right, Chief?
I'm just going to say that I received the parade permit for the Cary Grove Homecoming Parade today, and we'll be meeting with representatives of the school Cary Grove High School tomorrow to discuss the route and the logistics as it relates to the event.
And it's my understanding that they're not doing a Fox River Grove portion of that. It's just going to be in Cary.
And speaking of Sunday, so with the event, that's all for the parade for now. Sunday is very similar layout to Saturday, but the farmers market will move up into the 6-hour parking lot as well in order to keep the logistics simplified for when that portion ends and the rest of the festival continues. Similar to, again, the detours that we experienced with Cruise Night, Farmers Market, downtown will be reserved for the festival. There'll be some setup occurring on the Friday prior to the event, and then obviously we'll work at the conclusion Sunday evening to clean up the festival and open up the road to traffic as fast as we can from there. Update for the board on the finances. So we had budgeted about $50,000 of expenses, split evenly with the Chamber of Commerce. We were anticipating approximately $20,000 to $25,000 in what we'll call administrative revenue, which includes sponsorships and also fees from our vendors. And then operational revenue, which more simplified for this event is essentially beverage sales. So to date, we have about little under $28,000 obligated in expenses so far, so we're running under budget. 10,000 of those have been already paid. A lot of the expenses for this type of event do occur after, we're invoiced after the event itself and the services are provided. We're above budget, which is amazing. We have great support from our community. The sponsorships and vendor fees have totaled almost $30,000 to date. And obviously, we'll wait and see how the operational revenue happens once we have the day of the event. So our goal of being approximately zero net cost and possibly maybe even generating some additional revenue to use towards next year's event is going according to plan. So again, we have the bags tournament, so we're looking for participants. Check out there's a QR code there, or check out CaryMainStreetFest.com. Sorry, my memory on websites is not very good today. And also, you'll see from the social media outreach from the Chamber, we are looking for volunteers as well. So if you would like to participate and help us run the event, there's a link on our website, and the QR code is there as well.
Is there an age range for the Bago? Could kids do it too?
I'd have to get back to you on that. I believe anyone can, though. Okay, that's what I had for this evening about Main Street Fest.
Thank you. Department head reports. Chief Finland, nada? My good friend, Director Noonan over there.
Mr. Mayor, I have a quick update. We have our open house for our water and sewer department coming up on September 10th from 5 to 7 p.m. Open to the public, please come out and visit. We are going to have highlights of the utility division, what they do and how they keep our water clean and our sewer safe. And the hard work they do down there. We are also going to have a special guest, Scott Kuykendall from the county. If nobody's met him, he's a great resource for the county and for the municipalities. He's going to be highlighting, he's going to have visual exhibits for the importance of clean and sustainable water in McHenry County. So please come out and join us September 10th, 5 to 7.
Are you guys going to be doing the tractor rides too?
We will be doing tractor rides. Thank you for bringing that up. We will have tractor rides. We'll have tours of the sewer, the wastewater plant. So you're welcome to go on those tours. We'll have other visual aids and projects coming up and the importance of hydrant flushing and how we get water pumped from the ground into your faucets. So,
thank you. Director Simmons?
Just one quick update for the board and the community. Just a reminder from the board's perspective, earlier this summer we did approve new building codes and permit fees that had a delay installation for those that will go into effect on September 1st. So starting next week, those new fees and new codes will go into effect. So new permit applications that are received by the village will be subject to those new codes and fees.
Thank you. Any future agenda items, discussion by the village board? None said. I will entertain a motion to adjourn into executive session to discuss litigation pending or imminent, 5 Illinois CS 120/2C11, real estate purchase or lease by 5 Illinois CS 120/2C5, and real estate setting the price for a sale lease of village property, 5 Illinois CS 120/2C6.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We will adjourn immediately into the executive boardroom. And there will be no action after this, so we will be adjourning from executive session.